What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants, powered by BetUS. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. We just relaxed on a Sunday evening, didn't have to watch the Giants lose. We got to watch some decent football, turn on Red Zone, turn off our brains, and make some sports bets. It was a chill weekend, but now we're back into the middle of the week. We're looking ahead to next weekend. Giants versus Seahawks. It's another tough one, but let's recap and review this Thursday night game that the Giants lost, because while it wasn't pretty, and they did lose, and we're very upset that we're 1-3, you guys know us. We like to find the positives. We like to see what we can take away that makes us happy and makes us feel better about the direction of this team. And honestly, consistently throughout these first 4 weeks, the offensive line has been one of those silver linings. Almost every single game, I felt good about the way that this offensive line performed. And while Thursday was a little bit more of a mixed bag, it wasn't a great run blocking performance. There were a lot of positive takeaways for the Giants offensive line in pass protection against the Dallas Cowboys defensive line that, no, isn't the same lineup that it was last year, but still has given the Giants a lot of problems in the past. But overall, played pretty well on Thursday. So we're going to go ahead and react to that, give you guys kind of our weekly offensive line review and recap, and just discuss how we feel about the starting five and, what we're seeing from this unit that either encourages us or discourages us going through the rest of this season. So we're going to go ahead and dive into all that. Alex, how are you doing, and what was your reaction to the way that the offensive line played on Thursday night?
Listen, it's been a couple of days since Thursday night, and obviously we've kind of come to terms with what happened and losing that football game, and it felt like a very winnable game. Dallas seems like a vulnerable team, and honestly, the Eagles look just as weak. So, I kind of feel as though this NFC East, somehow the Commanders are running away with it. And it's kind of like, didn't see that one coming, but it's happening. And the Giants, they're not that far out of this division, right? This division is very much winnable. It's not as strong as it used to be. And the Giants have a chance to kind of turn things around here, maybe get back into the fold. And it's going to start in the trenches, right? The pass rush has been inconsistent at times, but they've made an impact when they needed to. Kayvon stepped up big last week. But on the offensive line, things have been solid, like the best we've seen in maybe a decade, Anthony. And I have to say, I'm finally feeling as though we're trending in the right direction. Somehow Bobby Johnson is doing some good stuff in Washington, despite the fact he destroyed everything we tried to do last year. But again, injury really hurt our unit, so I will give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt there. It was really set back. But looking at the situation at the moment, what Micah Parsons and Andrew Thomas did in that game, really more so what Andrew Thomas did in that game, one pressure over 44 snaps, 21 of them pass blocking. One pressure over 21 pass blocking snaps is pretty dang impressive. He locked Micah Parsons down. And you love to see that, right? Because that just shows us Andrew Thomas coming off a game against Myles Garrett where he really struggled. He cooked Micah Parsons. And I think that really shows his resiliency and the ability to overcome some adversity. And, Anthony and I were talking about this kind of before the episode started. And, what defines a good player, if not a great player, is having a bad game or a bad moment, a bad snap even, and bouncing back and having an elite performance, whether it's after the game, after the snap, after whatever it might be, making a critical, something good, positive in a critical moment. Andrew Thomas rebounded from a bad game against Myles Garrett and locked freaking Micah Parsons in prison. And that's what we wanted to see. And that was awesome from the perspective of facing some adversity and rebounding. 84.4 pass blocking grade, according to PFF. Now, another really good performance in this one, John Michael Schmitz, and I'll let you kind of get your take on AT and also JMS. John Michael Schmitz is quickly developing into a really competent center. All it took was some synergy, some healthy teammates, and a good offensive line coach. Go figure. And JMS is putting all the bad stuff behind him. A lot of people called him a bust this past offseason. Way too soon to call a rookie a bust who had a different left guard combination every single week last year. So Anthony, looking at Andrew Thomas, his resiliency, bounce back performance, and then what JMS has done so far, really impressive stuff. I'm really, really intrigued about his potential, his future, and really what this offensive line is providing Daniel Jones in terms of pass protection.
No, yeah, I've been really impressed. And again, I know that this Dallas defensive line isn't the exact Dallas defensive line that the Giants faced last year. They haven't been as productive as they have been in years past, but even still, some of these players have given the Giants a lot of trouble in the past. And Micah Parsons in particular, if you guys remember that one Thanksgiving matchup between him and Andrew Thomas, he did get the better of Andrew Thomas, and we're talking like prime Andrew Thomas. So Micah Parsons, whether he's playing under Dan Quinn or not, is still a problem. And in this game, I thought that Andrew Thomas did an excellent job of managing Micah Parsons and keeping him out of the backfield. And I'm excited to also discuss John Michael Schmitz. But real quick, Alex, I do want to talk about this bet that I found on BetUS because this looks pretty good. And disclaimer, I apologize, guys. I had my 3-bet win streak going. I know some of you were tailing me, and we were cooking. But then on Thursday night, I got a little overambitious. I took the over on the points. I didn't win that one, but I'm here. I'm bouncing back today. I'm ready to hit on another bet here with BetUS. I am taking for this Monday night matchup between the Dolphins and the Titans, the under on points once again, 37 total points, minus 110. I like that line because the Dolphins without Tua have been terrible. The Titans with Will Levis, turnover machines. I think this is going to be an ugly Monday night football game, low scoring, weather probably not all that great because we're talking about South Florida where I live and I am miserable in this weather, but I digress off that. I think this is going to be a low scoring one. I'm going to take the under here. I'm going to throw $10 down on it, see if I can get back to my winning ways here at BetUS. And if I don't win this one, I think we're handing it over to Alex and letting him take some of these bets going forward. But that's going to be my bet for today. Now, JMS, not BetUS, but JMS. Let's talk about him. Alex, he had one pressure surrendered in that game versus the Cowboys. That's pretty solid, and honestly, all year, the thing that's excited me the most about John Michael Schmitz is not the fact that he's been better in pass protection, but he's been wildly improved as a run blocker. Now, in this Week 4 matchup between the Giants and the Cowboys, the run blocking across the board was pretty bad, but overall, the vibe that I'm getting from JMS, he's playing with more confidence and more comfort now that he has a decent pairing of guards on each of his shoulder. And he has looked better because of it. The Cowboys, one of the things that they love to do is run stunts and twists. They did that again this past week. The Giants actually picked those stunts and twists up this week. I don't know if you saw that, Alex. That was the most impressive part of the way that the Giants offensive line played to me, because I know that you remember. Some of these games that they've played against Dallas, those stunts were coming, and auto sacks. The Giants were just letting anybody run free. But this time around, I saw Jon Runyan picking up a lot of those stunts. I saw him passing off blockers to JMS. I saw him passing off blockers, or pass rushers rather, to Andrew Thomas. And they were doing a great job of picking up those stunts. A lot of that has to do with the fact that JMS is probably calling these things out at the line of scrimmage, though. So it kind of developed to me. I'm impressed with JMS and the way that he's handling that adversity and those stunts that the Cowboys were throwing his way. But also, Alex, I thought that more so than anything, Jon Runyan Jr. in pass protection, handling those stunts on the left side of the offensive line, was the night and day difference that kept Daniel Jones upright in Week 4. How do you feel about the way the Giants protected against those stunts, and how big of a role those guards, namely Jon Runyan Jr., played in that job?
Yeah, I mean, look, Runyan was hit for 3 pressures, but it was because of those stunts. You know what I mean? It's because of those different twists and turns and getting a little creative in the trenches. So, yeah, he was hit with those, but he picked them up really nicely, and he managed to stifle them, and Daniel Jones, moved around the pocket a little bit better. So, from a perspective of getting creative, how many times have we seen the Giants struggle to pick up stunts in the past? Like, almost incapable. Evan Neal, I mean, don't want to even think about that. It gives you nightmares still. So, looking at what they have now, it's night and day. Jon Runyan, you guys know this. When they signed him, I said this was a really, really good move for the Giants. 3 years, $30 million. He was playing out of position at right guard, moved to left guard. He's a very solid pass protector, and he's an okay run defender. He's decent there. But, that left side, Andrew Thomas has never had a guard like Jon Runyan playing alongside him. And to be quite frank, JMS has never had a guard like either Greg Van Roten or Jon Runyan playing alongside him. And Greg Van Roten, I said this when we signed him, he is a good backup. That is what his role should be on a good team. But because the Giants don't have that much depth, don't have that much starting talent either, he's starting at right guard. And he's been fine. Like, he's a competent starter. He's decent, probably an average level player. Ideally, he's a good backup. But for the Giants, he's doing a job. And he gave up 4 pressures in this most recent week. Jermaine Illuminor had 1 pressure allowed. Jermaine Illuminor, How well did we call that one, man? We called this from day one. He was going to be starting. He wasn't going to lose that job, and he was going to solidify right tackle. And he's solidifying it not just because he's a good player, because he really wants it. And I respect that from him. Like, he wants to be a Giant. He wants to be a good football player here. He leaves it all on the football field, and I can respect that every single week from him. The Giants finally have that duo of tackles that holds up in pass protection. And I think that, he's on a 2-year, $14 million deal. If he plays well next year, I would keep him. Like, that's how confident I am in Jermaine Illuminor. And, not having to go out and get a right tackle in the draft and spend a top 10 pick again, like that would be nice, ideally. And Anthony, I'll say this right now though, like Evan Neal, I kind of feel like is a lost cause at this point. Maybe he can develop. I'm not putting much stock into it, but if I'm the Giants, I may even consider spending like a third round pick on an offensive tackle they could develop next year while Jermaine Illuminor is starting. Someone that will be hopefully developed into a starting right tackle. So maybe that's something the Giants do look at. This upcoming draft class is interesting because a lot of guys stayed in school because of COVID and had open, like the portal was open and they had an extra year of eligibility. A lot of these guys are a little bit older, which does provide you with a little bit more physicality in terms of like they're physically like ready to be NFL players, and they have a little bit more experience at the college level. So the development will hopefully be a little bit expedited, despite the fact this is a much more depth draft. Like the first round grades are a little bit spotty at this point. We'll get there in a couple months, but right now I do think that it might be a good idea to find a mid-round pick to develop behind Illuminor for the time being next draft. But for now, really happy with what he's been doing. One pressure in this game. Greg Van Roten, he obviously is a solid backup, competent player. He's doing much more than we got from guys like whoever, Marcus McCaffrey, who's no longer even on this team anymore, Justin Pugh, whoever we had there. So I'm happy with what we have right now. They're playing as a unit. They're not playing individually, and that's really, really encouraging. I mean, they had DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons to start this game. They lost both of them throughout the game, but they locked them down while they were available. So, for the most part, really encouraged by this Giants offensive line. I think they were trending in a direction that gives whoever's playing quarterback, whether it's DJ or a future guy, a good situation to walk into and say to themselves, I can operate behind this. They're not going to stunt my development. How important do you think that is in terms of whoever's playing quarterback? They can make progress in this line. They can make progress with this type of pass protection. But in the past, the Giants would be dead to rights, man. They couldn't develop a young passer with this type of situation.
Yeah, and I think you make some good points there because, listen, we have our criticisms of Daniel Jones. This isn't a Daniel Jones episode, so I'm not really going to dive into his performance, talk about the offensive line. But case in point being, in years past, with this level of offensive line, had you given that to Daniel Jones a while ago, maybe he performed better. And if you think Daniel Jones is playing well this season, you have to know that a lot of that is credited to the offensive line playing so much better. Even if I don't think Daniel Jones is playing at an elite level, and I'm not crazy about the way that he's played, he is completing a high percentage of his passes, and he's gaining more yardage than I honestly expected him to a lot of time this season. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Giants have a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL already with Malik Neighbors, but also the fact that he has time to stand in the pocket and throw the ball to Neighbors and Wandale and all these other guys. So the offensive line is definitely helping the quarterback situation of the New York Giants. Although a lot of people still aren't happy with the quarterback situation, it's better than a lot of them expected it to be because of the offensive line. And going forward, whether it's Jones, DeVito, Locke, Jalen Milroe, Shadir Sanders, Carson Beck, it doesn't matter who you put back there. We all know that the benefits of having a good offensive line are quantified. We know that it is super important to have a stable starting five in front of whoever is throwing the ball. You can give the worst offensive line in the NFL to the best quarterback in the NFL, and you're going to see him be hindered by that offensive line. Inversely, you can give the best offensive line to the worst quarterback, and you'll see him play better as a result of that offensive line. So we know that offensive line play is important, whether we're talking about a year 6 quarterback or a year 1 or year 15 quarterback. And it has been refreshing to see a quarterback for the Giants not be put on their back, play in and play out. Honestly, it just has been refreshing because even if we're talking about Daniel Jones dealing with all this bad offensive line play, Alex, it doesn't start and end there. Go as far back as 2012. I mean, Eli Manning, for the last 10 plus years, the New York Giants have been dealing with bad offensive line play. You remember that one hit that Eli Manning took against the Washington football team in 2018 or 19? He got drilled by, I think it was Chris Baker. Oh my God, I don't think Eli was ever the same after that. And that was a result of having Nate Solder and Eric Flowers be your starting offensive tackles. Well, we're a far cry from there, and that's a great thing. Andrew Thomas and Jermaine Illuminor is a night and day difference between Nate Solder and Eric Flowers, and I am forever thankful for the fact that this New York Giants team actually finally got the offensive line seemingly right this offseason. They worked hard to do it. Joe Schoen invested a lot of assets over the last few years with first round, second round, third round picks, fifth round picks, and now finally, cherry on top, free agency signings. Giants offensive line is a lot better for it. So I'm definitely encouraged. Love the Illuminor signing. I think the John Runyon signing is one of the more underrated ones that occurred across the NFL this season, and I'm feeling good. So hopefully the Giants offensive line continues to keep this pace, continues to play well, and we've still got a couple of really tough games coming up on the schedule here. Seattle's got a good defense. Play Cincinnati soon. They've got a good pass rusher, and then we're talking J.J. Watt and the Steelers, or T.J. Watt rather, and we know how good they are. So it's going to be a tougher road for this offensive line, and they've got some tough, challenging tests ahead, but I'm curious to see how they respond. And again, my confidence is growing in this unit week by week. But Alex, any closing thoughts on the way that this offensive line performed in week 4, or really just across this entire start of the season?
I mean, listen, we complained last year about how the offensive line didn't give our quarterbacks time to throw the ball deep. That's not the case anymore. So I would really, this offense is going to change drastically. If Daniel Jones can start to connect on some of these deep passes, we're going to start scoring touchdowns instead of field goals, guys. That's the difference between winning and losing games. Connecting on those throws that are open. And this offensive line is doing a tremendous job giving him time for these routes to develop and wait for his receivers to get open. So it's just that last piece of the puzzle that can put us in a different kind of situation offensively and force defenses to protect the deeper portions and, set back a little bit, which opens up more space for guys like Neighbors. And, I think Slayton said today he looked like he was in good spirits. He was doing well. We don't know if he'll clear the concussion protocol, but I'll tell you this right now, Anthony. The Giants are going to get annihilated against the Seahawks if they don't have Malik Neighbors. They have the best coverage unit in the game right now in the 8th-ranked run-stopping defense. This team needs Neighbors available this upcoming week. If they don't have him available, it's going to be another long game for the Giants. So at this moment, they're going to have to be aggressive. They need him back. If he's not available, if you're a sports bettor, I wouldn't be betting on the Giants. I'd be hitting the under for them for sure. So that's kind of all I'll say right now. But hopefully he can get healthy and they can start to capitalize on these deep kind of routes that are there for the taking. It's just really just connecting on them on the deep ball. So for what it's worth, the offensive line has given this offense a new life. It's given them chances to be more aggressive and capitalize on more opportunities. Now it's just time to actually see it come to fruition.
Yeah, and the run blocking does need to be better. We've praised this offensive line. The last point that I'll make, and I'll clarify, we are not impressed with the way the offensive line performed in week 4 in a run blocking department. But going up against a good Dallas defensive front that's gotten the better of this team for years, I was happy to see progress in the pass protection department. Singletary didn't play well either. He was dancing around in the backfield and was missing some open holes, so part of the blame goes on his shoulders. But at the same time, the Giants offensive line, run blocking wise, wasn't stellar against the 32nd ranked defensive rush unit in the NFL in week 4. So hopefully they improve in that regard. But again, feeling encouraged about the way that they have performed thus far from a pass protection standpoint. And we'll see throughout the rest of the year how this continues to progress. And obviously we'll continue to update you week in and week out about the New York Giants offensive line. And we're excited to do so. No matter what the Giants record is, you guys can be sure that Fireside Giants will be hitting you with some content on the daily, trying to find those positives where we can, as always. But make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you listen on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. And hey, make sure you go check out our affiliate link down below to BetUS. Really great 125% sign-up bonus, all that fun stuff, fastest sportsbook in the country. So go check out BetUS, and we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one. Let's go Giants.
Perfect.